So wherever you are, good evening. My time zone is evening for my wonderful guest today, Charlotte. It's the afternoon, and full disclosure here, everyone, my glass of Reno is accompanying me today. Mhm. So for those of you in the European time zone, chin chin. I'm really, really happy and excited to have you here today, Charlotte. And there's something about, I don't know if you remember this time in radio when you were growing up, but called Quiet Storm.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know it's daytime for you, but for me, it's like 10 past 8. And there's something that feels like so quiet storm, so chill, having this conversation, you and I. And I always think sometimes about this podcast series for Black Women Parlay. And even though in many senses it's tied to the private women's network, I always think about this as being, the glass on the door when someone's trying to hear what's going on. This is a taster of the things we will be discussing in that room, but you're not going to get all of it, but you're still going to get to hear like a lot of good stuff. And I'm super excited to have you here. I mean, we came across each other in a super cool way. Connected, coming together, mutual friend bringing us together to say, you two will have something in common. And I really, really love what you're trying to do. So really, welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here. Very, very honored to be in this space with you.
Listen, as I said in Jamaica, I say me love you off already. So this is already good. So you're the founder of SenterME, and I was just saying to you, one of the things that has been preoccupying my mind at the moment is this concept of a Black woman needing to be a Black man's peace. Don't comment, don't bring him stress, all of this stuff. And I think about it, do you know that phrase, the strong silent type? You bear everything, you say nothing, and inside you're crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
And I always worry about young women today who don't necessarily hear a counter narrative, because I think of, and I'm not sure how you felt about music when you were growing up, but I still remember music still even now is like a soundtrack to my life. And you still think about, did you used to listen to Joe when you were younger?
Mm, yeah. Yes.
La 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 la. You're right. I light
Yes.
1,000 candles all around. This was,
Okay.
this was the stuff that made us believe that this what love was gonna look like. You know,
Right. Right. Right.
Baby,
Yeah.
I wanna do all love. And you're like, yeah, man, this is it. This is what love's like. This is how it's gonna be. This is how I get to show up. And when I see like the music today and what it's talking about with regards to women, I'm a bit like, if you don't know who you are, if you don't love yourself, you're going to end up doing all these things that damage yourself in the long run.
Yep.
So my first question to you is, and I think this is a really powerful one, which is, why is it that you do what you do with SenterMe? And why do you believe that it's never too early to start to connect with the concept of self-love?
Part of me has always known that this was the work that I was supposed to be doing. So, what I have found is that there are many ways to lose. And the only way that you win is by showing up as your authentic self and embracing yourself. And for me, really understanding that, growing to understand that my life, matters and that I'm worthy, you know, it has really transformed my inner space.
Mm,
And so, who am I to not share what I have found? And who am I to not embrace my gifts and talents?
mm.
to do this in the way that I know I was supposed to do it.
Right.
You know? And so I do this as an honor, you know, to my sisters. I am humble in the space that I am in to serve Black women this way, because I know that this is how we really set ourselves free. So if I'm going to spend but a moment's time in this human experience, I want it to be worth it.
Mm.
And this is how I see it being worth it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think if you could also like just expand a little bit more on,
Yeah.
you know, what you do with SenterME, because I think, you know, notoriously, or you even see there are a lot of channels that talk about self-love, self-care, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, what does it mean for us, and how are you bringing that to us? So I'd love for you to kind of dig into that a little bit as well.
Yeah. So at SenterME, I am building a community for Black women to be able to come and, you know, experience the re-education of self-love.
Mm.
And so I want to be able to engage your whole self. So if you are participating in a class or a workshop of mine, there are going to be activities that are going to help you and to encourage retention. I'm going to bring into these, peer-reviewed articles that show proof and, that listen, the number one killer of Black women is heart disease.
Mm.
And there are statistics that have shown that emotional wellness is not only a key in preventing heart disease,
Mm.
but it is essential in the recovery of having had a heart attack.
Right.
And so if Black women are to really get this work, they need to know these things.
Mm.
They need to know what the impact of anger does on the heart. They need to know what the impact of survivor mode does. They need to know how to build a self-love environment for themselves to thrive in. What does that look like?
Mm.
Having classes on how to just curate a living space for yourself that says love lives here, and talking about, the fact that declutter is going to help you in not only improving your quality of sleep, but your mental wealth.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so
Mm.
it's like you're learning, like, this is the real re-education of self-love over here.
Mm.
This is the type of work that I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm building curriculums and I'm teaching them.
Mm.
And I'm making it, I'm delivering the information in a way that, is engaging, of course. So we got, self-love is fun. We got games and, different activities that I try to do to make sure that, with this heaviness that comes
Right.
with some of the information,
It's
we're able to
balance.
balance it out with, some fun, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Because at the end of the day, I want you to come back. You know what I'm saying?
Listen. Let's listen. Listen. At the end of two things, you want them to come back, but number two, it's like it wouldn't be a Black affair if there wasn't joy as part of it. Because it
Exactly,
doesn't matter how
exactly.
serious and how heavy life is, you know, my husband came to my grandfather's funeral this year, and after we did the sad part, then it was a proper party, and he was like, this is like no other funeral I've ever been to, because you're like, Black people party at funerals, that's what happens. It's not just crying. It can't all be sackcloth and ashes. It can't all be
Yeah.
sad. But there was really one thing that you just said to me, and this is what I think is so powerful, is recognizing and understanding the impact of survival mode. And I
Yeah.
think it's that part right there where from a very, very young age, we are taught to survive. From a very, very young age, we are taught to, I think it was in one of Tarana Burke's books where she talked about, from a young age, you're taught, don't sit on don't sit on this man's lap when he gets older. Don't do this, don't do that, don't wear skirt too short, don't do this. We're always taught to find ways to minimize danger. We're taught to find ways
minimize
to
our presence.
right. Presence, danger, all these things that ultimately you don't realize that automatically puts you in survival mode. And you're always clocking the situation to say, where's my exit point? And if I'm not safe here, how can I get out? And we don't realize what continuous impact that has on us if we don't recognize how deep that goes, if we don't recognize that it's generational, if we don't recognize that it's also societal, if we don't recognize that it's validated and revalidated by media, literature, and everything. And to your point, then we don't see the impact, because what we haven't realized is that we're continuously in a state of survival, which is not living, it's existing.
Right.
And the heavy lifting into getting out of survival mode. And as you said, you found your freedom, you found your way to be free. Why wouldn't you share that? And that's powerful stuff. I mean, I read this book. It's by Donna L. Franklin, and it's called What's Love Got to Do with It? And it looks at the rift between Black men and Black women. But what it also does is it looks at this element, as you said, about the existence of Black women, where we're positioned, how we're positioned, how we can sometimes forget the depths to which it doesn't mean you can't have a nice life. It doesn't mean you're not healthy, but we can still underestimate the extent to which generational trauma prevents us from engaging with self-love. And the fact that you're taking it one step further, I think is, different and it's very unique, because you don't hear many people talking about it in terms of building a curriculum, going deeper than just saying, hey, it's about daily affirmations.
Right. I mean, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I mean, I feel like we exist in a society that it is obvious, and it has been obvious, is dead set on restricting Black women. So the environment that we are existing in is the reason that we're in survivor mode. So what I mean by that is, if we are not going to bring our awareness to our environment, then we won't be able to see ourselves in this survivor mode. Because, if this is all imagine trying to see something different, So we first have to really be for ourselves. You said something earlier that really rang to me when you said, about feeling safe. Feeling safe is very important to Black women. It is very, very important to Black women. And I don't think that we talk about that enough, because of the way that it impacts the way that we show up. You know what I mean? Because if you feel safe, then you're in an environment that is full of love. So how do we build these self-love environments around ourselves so that we are expanding instead of shrinking?
Right.
And so for me, the environment that we're in, society, it's, you know, it's obvious we're the most underrepresented, underserved group in the world.
Mm.
And if we don't take the re-education and self-love seriously, you know, we're not going to be able to get really what we came here for. You know, we didn't come here for this. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying?
No, for sure.
And you have to, you have to know that what is in you is worthy, is enough, and deserves to come to do the three things that we are all meant to do in this life. And that is to express ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
to expand, and to evolve.
Right.
But we
Right.
have to be able to give ourselves that space. We have to be able to give ourselves permission to feel safe in our environments so that we can start to make the transformation in our lives
Mm-hmm.
that is going to set us free. We have to be for ourselves the love that we deserve. We have to be that for ourselves if we are going to be able to thrive in this experience.
Yeah. And there's so many things I wanted to say, but the first thing I wanted to say, as you were talking about, you know, the system that we live in right now, do you know what came to my mind? The imagery that came to my mind was, theoretically, we all know how a mirror works, right? Someone holds a mirror in front of you and it reflects you back. But for a Black woman, what we haven't always understood is somebody has already put our reflection of a picture of our reflection in the mirror. So when they hold it up, we believe that reflection because we say, well, we know what there's it, but it's not a reflection we're seeing, it's a picture. And in many cases, as you were saying it, this is the thing. This reflection that we're seeing from society is a picture that has been created. And
Yes.
what we're trying to do is rip that picture out of the frame to reveal the mirror underneath so that we recognize ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. Everything that you just said, because it's a matter of, you know, saving our own lives and
Mm-hmm.
that's and honestly, like whenever I think about how obvious it is that Black women are under attack, I feel like, you know, then that's probably, you know, there's got to be a reason. I must be really working with something over here if they're putting all of this effort and energy into trying to break me and
Listen,
put me down. I must really
listen,
be, must be spitting
listen.
on,
Right.
if you're putting all of that.
Effort into it. Because you know what? Because the thing is, I always say this, if I'm not a threat, why do you waste your time? If I'm not a threat, why do you waste your time?
Okay.
And the thing is that, you know, when you were saying we have to be our self-love, I think for the most part, what we've always done is we have validated ourselves and we validated each other constantly because we had to. If we left
We
it
have
to
to.
right, if we left it to society, we would constantly, you know, we would feel ugly. And a lot of Black women do. I'm not saying it's, you know, that everyone loves themselves, but if we purely left it to society, we wouldn't appreciate all the things we have. But to your point, two things. One, we're absolutely under attack. But two is the self-validation is almost a visceral reaction. And it's still a fight. It's a fight to provide that validation because everything else tells you not to. And what I love is that you're saying create that space of love for each other. Actually, the validation is through love. It's not because we're looking and saying we have to be white, we have to be Latina, we have to be anything else, but we're looking at each other and creating that sisterhood that says, I love you as you are, you're wonderful as you are, and this is not in comparison to anybody else, but in absolute terms. Be that space for each other, be that space for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, I know people sometimes laugh at this concept around decluttering your house and it declutters your mind, but it does.
It's so true though. It's so true. I mean, the facts are there.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like the facts are there. So there are so many different things that we can do to, there's so many different ways. I always say that there, self-love is very diverse because there's so many different ways that we can really learn to love ourselves. And I want to be able to explore each and every one of those.
Right.
You know what
I,
I mean? And so, that's why I've stumbled on, information that has really helped me to amplify my message. Ultimately, I feel like that's one of the gifts of, Black women. Like we really
mhm.
know how to take something and just make it this
Right.
huge thing.
We know how to make this
Like
fly.
we
Right.
know how to, like we really know how to grow and amplify things. And I feel like that just speaks to our natural, design to expand. But it's like we have to, for me, I'm going to be looking at my class replays, making sure that, oh, I might can learn something too. You know what I mean? Like I'm taking it very easy on myself because that's the kind of love that I want in my life.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to, when I say that, I'm helping Black women to expand into their highest selves. Your highest self is the version of you that knows what's best for you in that moment in time.
Preach.
And we're all out here doing our best.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So trust yourself, give yourself space, really give yourself space to be absolutely nothing. And this is what I really mean by that. We sometimes get unnecessary pressures and stresses on ourselves because we want to be all the things.
Mm.
We want to be all the things. And sometimes some of the things that we want are not even in our best interest. And so when you release yourself of everything and you accept, I'm all things and I'm nothing at the same time.
Right.
This is how you this is what it looks like to give yourself grace. This is what it looks like to start, forgiving yourself, really accepting yourself. And for me, that's a journey that you're going to have to have, until you take your last breath, because if like I know, there's always going to be something to explore with you. You're going to always be creating something new. You're not going to be the person that you were last year.
Not even 6 months
I
ago.
wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. You're supposed to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're supposed to be able to see, what you came here for. You're supposed to be able to exist in an environment that allows you to thrive. That's what you're supposed to. You have to accept that. And that is, a constant reminder. That is a self-love environment. That is a self-love language. That is a self-love vision, all in alignment. You have to connect with that, really believe that everything that we put our
Mm.
belief into, we bring life to.
Mm.
That's how powerful we are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like whatever you believe, good or bad, whatever you believe, that's it.
It's self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Once you start to believe it, you then walk like it's true. Once you start to walk like
Yes.
it's true, then it happens that way. And it's it's this part around getting to the point where we understand, and I love what you said about giving ourselves grace, which is also, it's getting to that point where you say, I don't have to prove myself or prove my value to be worthy.
Yep.
I always
That's
say,
it.
one of my own little quotes that I like is, you don't have to be perfect to deserve love, right? It's not about perfection. It's not about being the best of. It's not about even being comparable to. And I think that's the other part, which is a lot of the times we don't give ourselves grace because we're looking over our shoulder. I'm not sure if you saw this article this week in Forbes, and it was talking about, two Black women CEOs who managed to do it and also be mothers. The Sunder Duckett and you know who
I saw that. And
what's her name again? The
I
lady from
don't
Starbucks.
remember. I
Oh,
saw that though. I did. I did.
it's jarring me her name. Is it surname Barnes? I can't remember, but she's the CEO of Starbucks. And I was a little bit like, what is it now that you want to say to Black women? That if you say it's hard to take care of my kids and have a job, it's okay because these Fortune 500 two Black CEOs have done it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because when I saw that, I just kept scrolling. I said, I will not, not today. Not today.
I was on the verge of posting it and cussing to basically say, no, once again, we're doing this superhero act. Once again, we're saying this is the standard for Black women. This does not create a situation that is any way validating for the woman who might have aspirations, but it just doesn't work because she can't get it. We're not talking about the salaries of these women. We're not talking about the paid help that these women have. We're looking at really, really basic facts. Black female mothers.
Yes.
And
you have to be able
CEOs.
to like really read. You have to be able to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to see what they're really saying. Because like you said, like we don't get enough of that talk that is, Black women can be the damsel in distress. We don't get that, where we feel safe in our environment, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, if we're not going to really embrace ourselves, we cannot leave it up to society to do it for us, because it's not going to happen.
No,
it's not going to happen. Like, we're living 3 years younger than our white counterparts. It's not because we're not healthy people. It's not because, we have terrible, habits. You know what I'm saying? Like,
just
it's not because
look at it from I always think of it like a biological perspective. If you take this from like microbes that grow under certain conditions, we are not in our optimal condition. That is why.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so we're spending time right now on the work that you're doing, and the work that you're doing is exactly that. It is, how do I recalibrate the conditions? If I can't recalibrate those externally, how do I recalibrate those internally? Which might look like being more aware, and as you said, being able to read the line between the lines. It might also look like having a higher level of protection, not because of self-preservation, a self-preservation aspect, but you understand that you're caring for yourself, not surviving. I think there's a lot to be said about being intentional with how you do things.
Yeah.
Because until the world is ready for us, there always has to be that element of protection, internal, external.
You know what I feel like? I feel like I'm going to always give myself permission to feel safe. I'm going to always give myself permission to feel safe. I'm going to always be, regulating on a high level, because I want to make sure that I am the most familiar with my needs.
Mm-hmm.
I am the most familiar with my state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I ever find myself experiencing any type of external turbulence or anything like that, I know what it takes to maintain my inner peace.
Mm.
I know what it takes to get me back to where I'm most comfortable at. You know what I mean? Like, that's why spending silent time with yourself every day is so important. You know, really familiarizing yourself with what stillness is versus what paralysis is, because we have to be able to tell the difference between whether or not fear is keeping us back, or is it time for us to spend some, you know, to get some practice in stillness and really, you know, focus on that silence. And so I just feel like, saying all of this, whenever we get to the point where we are able to, you know, invest that time daily into getting to know ourselves, into, you know, really exploring what our needs are, environmental, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and really starting to meet those needs, I think that at least this is what I see happening, that when we do that, as a result of that, the need for protection, so to speak, will begin to decrease. If you get what I'm saying, because like I want to feel like such a security in myself that I can be free no matter what space I'm in, no matter where I'm at, no matter what, I'm always free to be me. I don't want to feel like I have to, you know, be on guard or anything. But knowing me, I feel like, is going to be my best bet of keeping an external world from having an impact on my internal world. And so, I mean, I think, because I think when I heard you say protection, the first thing that came to mind was, you know, being on guard, you know, to an extent when we're in, you know, different spaces. You know, if we're, you know, we're being honest, we're in different spaces, there is this level of security that you feel like you have to have by putting up these added layers of protection in those spaces. But I want to exist so secure in myself that I don't even want to feel like I have to do that. In the rooms that I want to be in, I want them to know who I am before I even get there, so that they know when I get there, I'm exactly what they anticipated. Because I don't ever want there to be any situation where I'm not being true to who I am, because I feel like that's what's going to allow an external environment to have its way on my internal space.
Right.
And my internal space is too sacred for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So getting to know you, exploring you, knowing what those systems look like to, you know, create time and space for yourself to just get into the habit of knowing you, familiarizing yourself with your needs, you know, all of them, knowing how to meet them and getting in the habit of doing that. You're earning trust with yourself, because we have to do that too.
Agreed.
You know, when the relationship with self requires that what, courting process too.
Right. No, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, my take is slightly different, because I don't think so. I look at it slightly differently, because I look at it as, I don't know, some sort of shape with like 100 different sides. For me, like a human has so many different sides. And let's say you and I are having this conversation. I'm still absolutely Leanne with you, 100%. But I'm not the same Leanne, just like, you know, I'm not the same Leanne as when I'm a mother. I'm not the same Leanne as when I'm with my friends that I've known for 20 years. I'm not the same. So for me, when I think about having your guard up, I think for me, sitting in a place of self-love is, I'm a firm believer in, other people have to earn the depths of me, or more than the surface, which I'm not going to give in an instant. I'm still myself, but I get to choose the extent to which I show myself. i.e., I'm going to come in a new room and I want to see who all these players are. Because one of the things I do think about being a Black woman is, to your point, if you're always under attack, you also cannot afford to leave yourself open. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you always have to be in a place of defense. You can be completely neutral. But it does mean for me that you have to keep an eye out for observation, that not everybody in the room, and it doesn't mean you're on the attack, but it does mean that you're aware of the vibes, the behavior of people who don't have your interests in the beginning, who might take your openness and vulnerability as something to be used later on. And I think that's that part around being cautious doesn't necessarily mean you're not being authentically you. It's creating that barrier to say, I don't think, my inner sanctum, coming closer to me is an honor. And you still have to pass this much to get closer to me first. And like, so it's like, from my perspective, that's where the self-love is. I think there's a really important part around knowing yourself also means knowing your limitations of how much you want to share with other people. As in, I don't have to share all of myself for it to be authentic. I can choose how much I want to share because it's still quintessentially me. But with time, you get to see more. Like, just with any relationship, with time, you don't meet a man and give him everything on the first date, or a woman. You know, you don't go on a first date and give everything. You build the relationship. And I think, like, in each situation, it requires a little bit of that too, because that's respecting me. And for me, that's respecting me, my needs, how I see myself, and understanding my own character, not in the moment, but actually looking at it from a relationship perspective, not sexual one. Just like, if I invest all this time with you, if it goes wrong, how will I feel? What does that do to my, when I bubble in a good way, but my bubble of my protection, my case of self-love? Does that dent it? Does it harm it? Or is it something that's going to serve to strengthen it? Because I always think about, there's the today and the now, and then there's the, I don't know, you can't predict the future, but it's building those relationships, creating that space with people that you then meet to affirm that self-love environment, that it happens, well, as much as is possible. I know you, with your SenterME organization and all the things you're planning, there's going to be a physical place. But it's that kind of thing. Can we start in a way that I don't expect you to give all of yourself, you don't expect me to give all of myself, but we work on it together to ensure that we're in an affirming position with each other, if that makes sense?
Well, yeah. So when it comes to your self-love environments, I always break it down into 5 different cornerstones. So they're going to be your relationships, your living space, your routines, your hobbies, and your job, business, or career. And so the object is going to always be balance, right? It's going to be balance. But what holds it together, what is the foundation of this self-love environment, is boundaries.
Right.
And so our boundaries are going to help us in so many different ways, because they define the expected and accepted behavior in our self-love environment. And so knowing this, we can easily be able to maintain or be able to see what's not in alignment with our self-love environment when we are practicing, enforcing and maintaining our boundaries, when we are leading with balance in our relationships, our job, business, or career, living space, hobbies, and routine. And what this means is just being able to, know yourself and know whenever it's time to, replenish, because you've been putting out a lot, you know what I mean? Being very conscious of that goes a very long way, And so I think that's when it comes to relationships, if it's not in alignment with what you have built in your self-love environment, it will reveal itself, especially the more in tune you become with yourself. But these are going to be processes that happen naturally. You're not going to have to know what it is,
Correct.
You just start focusing mainly on making sure that you're existing in a self-love environment, and everything is going to align with that. Eventually it's going to align with that. But don't stress yourself about whether or not this relationship is giving or not, because it's going to come to the light and it's going to be so clear. You're not going to be able to avoid it anymore,
Right, because
especially if you're doing the work. You know what I mean?
right, because if you change your behavior, everybody else's behavior will change according to where you stand.
Yep.
You don't have to ask them and tell them. They will see your behavior and react accordingly.
Yep.
But listen, Charlotte, you know what? Number one, I'm super excited for when you come to Black Women Parlay and do a workshop with us. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I can't believe that the time's run by so quickly. So, where can the good people find you? Channels, handles, please hit us.
Yes, so definitely visit us at SenterME.com. We also we have a sister circle and a class every month. And we also open up memberships every month to help you get the self-love support and guidance that you know, deserve just like everyone else. And just be looking out for us on Instagram. We always post in, you know, free content on, you know, how to build your self-love environment, how to speak a self-love language, how to adhere to your self-love vision, all of these things that you're going to, you know, benefit from on your self-love journey. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at SenterMe Sis and the SenterMe House, and that's SenterME, SenterMe. And just keep on, you know, just stay on the lookout, because we're always going to be popping up in the community at an
Of course.
HBCU near you. And so just stay posted. You know, we're here for you. We're here to help you to expand. So whatever we can do to help you on your self-love journey, just allow SenterMe to be on this journey with you.
Thank you so much. And that's a wrap.
Thank
And for
you.
anyone who is new for joining, you can find me at Leanne MM on Instagram. And you can also find Black Women Parlay also on Instagram. And we look forward to seeing you soon. So it's good night from me. And I think it's see you soon from Charlotte.